Hello, everyone. I am Fabian, the product manager for GitLab Geo, and this is our plan for the next release, 13.11. So let me quickly share my screen. Okay, so planning for this month is a little bit ambitious, but I'll walk you through it. There are essentially three different themes. The first one is really continuation of our disaster recovery work. So we were hoping to be able to ship beta support for Patroni this month, but we have to do some more testing before we're happy, and this is going to continue in 13.11. As a reminder, Patroni is a high availability template for Postgres. So this allows customers to deploy a highly available Postgres cluster on their Geo secondary, which then in the case of failover would immediately restore high availability to the Postgres cluster. So we're working on this, and the work will continue in 13.11. The next items are all to do with our self-service framework. And so as a reminder, we've moved to an operating model where other contributors from the wider community or inside GitLab can actually add feature support for Geo. And we have essentially an internal framework, a skeleton that handles the replication of all the data that Geo is replicating. We do, however, need to move some of the data types that we support already into the framework to reduce technical debt and for them to be able to benefit from the self-service framework. So for example, for files, this would add verification capabilities almost for free. It also moves to an event-based system, so the performance is better compared to what's happening before. So we're currently working on moving LFS files to the self-service framework. And the main benefit here of doing that, other than reducing technical debt, is really increased performance. And then in another step, this would be actually having verification of LFS files, which is pretty simple to add once we've completed that work, which is a little bit more involved. We are also going to add verification capabilities to already existing blob replicators. So one of them is actually merge request diffs. The other one is Terraform state files, and then, as I said, LFS files. So these items here are quite spec'd out. It's essentially adding verification capabilities to those types following our framework definitions, which should be relatively straightforward. Close this. Finally, we actually discovered that verification for Git-based data, including that, is quite important for the self-service framework as well. It doesn't support that right now, but we do support verification already for other Git-based data types, mainly projects. So we're going to add that functionality in 13.11, and it looks to be a lot simpler than we initially anticipated. So that's good news, and we're going to essentially do a lot of sort of self-service framework work here. We're kind of at the end of that effort, and we're wanting to make sure that we put Geo here on a really solid ground in order to build out new feature capabilities on top of that. And the one thing that I'm really very excited about is that in parallel to this work, we're going to start working on making improvements to Geo replication. Specifically, we're going to work on something that we call secondary mimicry. So what this is essentially the thinking behind this is that currently Geo has a read-only secondary web interface. So if users actually go to a secondary web interface, they are not able to make changes to that. You can already push to a secondary when you use Git data, which gets automatically proxied, but that's not the case in the web UI. So we ran a proof of concept here in Workhorse that actually is our reverse proxy implementation for GitLab. And the idea is that we're going to move to a model where secondary sites will proxy information to the primary unless they can significantly increase the usability by providing those requests themselves. And for the web interface, that actually means that anything that we can't serve will be proxied to the primary site. And there are some demos here that you can check out. This is actually, kind of the intention. The actions that are being performed here are being performed on a secondary, and all of them are proxied transparently to the primary. So for users, this becomes indistinguishable, ideally, from using the primary in the first place. And that's what we're kind of going for here, a very transparent user experience, which is really exciting. And by doing this and implementing that, it also actually allows us to, in sort of a follow-on, to hide all of the geo nodes behind a single URL that is geolocation aware, which then in turn reduces the amount of administration that is necessary and makes it a lot easier to, just use the secondaries without any configuration needed. That's going to be a longer term investment, but we are starting on this journey now. And we're going to start implementing the proxying for this. So quite excited about that one. We are also almost done instrumenting usage ping. The only bit that is left is push counters from geo-secondary nodes that allows us to see how many folks actually push through geo-secondaries and get proxy to the primary. I've spoken about the new design of the geo node pages before. That's still ongoing, hopefully going to wrap up relatively soon. And this is something that happens partially because we are getting closer to a major release. We have to prepare a few items for that release. So for example, preventing upgrades to 14.0 without hash storage. We also need to improve the support for handling fork networks for backup and restore, because fork networks tend to actually really bloat the backup size. So that's something that we're going to investigate. And then here is just a number of overall documentation improvements, some bugs that we're going to address. So that's it for 13.11. Quite excited about it. Really looking forward to updates on the proxying front here. So we're going to start working on this. It will likely take a few releases to get this shipped. But yeah, thanks for listening. I'm excited, and I hope you too. Take care.